Hi everyone, Teri Wellbrock here. Just wanted to take a minute before today's episode, which I just edited in, so I just feel very relaxed and calm. Such a beautiful conversation on the benefits of using our senses to bring calming and healing to our lives, as well as the practice of yoga. And so the guest that is coming up, just one of those souls that I think I told her, not on air, not in this episode, but either before we met, or I think after our conversation, after I stopped recording. Sometimes you're just drawn to people and their energy, and I find that more and more in my life. Just being drawn to gentle, kind, loving energy, and this guest certainly emits that. So I'm very drawn to it and appreciate being blessed with that coming across my path more and more and more. And, I've always been a fan of the energy you put out in the world is the energy that comes back to you. So I keep thinking, well, maybe I'm starting to emit more of that gentle, calming, kind energy. Probably living on Hilton Head Island in paradise has been helpful because I do a lot of nature walks and meditations and just focusing on being in a state of relaxation and a state of calm. So even in the midst of all my crazy chaos with this mycotoxin poisoning, which I'm still recovering from, but I guess that's my message all along in everything that I do, is that even in the midst of the storm, you can still have peace. And I just did a special podcast that I'm going to be putting out in the next few weeks, special episode with a previous guest, and we did a live on air session, art healing session with me, and there were lots of tears. I cry throughout this upcoming episode, but so healing. And now that I think about it, yes, we talk about the calm within the storm from this art creation that she made while we were doing the interview, which wasn't even really an interview. It was more of just a conversation, a healing session. So that's coming up, and very excited for everyone to tune into that one. So, all right. Well, here is today's wonderful, calming episode. Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock, and I'm always like smiling ahead of time when I'm doing these introductions, because I have these great pre-recorded conversations with my wonderful guests. And again, I have another beautiful soul here to join us today, Kaity Rose Holsapple. She is founder of Her Temple and somatic yoga therapist and more. So welcome, Kaity.
Thank you, Teri. I'm really grateful and happy to be here with you.
Absolutely. My little sister's name is Katie, so that holds a special place in my heart. So
my aunt's name is Teri.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love it. So talk to us a little bit about Her Temple and your role with that, and why you founded it.
Yeah, so Her Temple was created really to help women who have survived trauma, especially sexual and relational trauma, to recover and heal. But also a big intention when I was creating the space was from my own journey and experience recovering from sexual trauma. I felt in my process, there were a lot of resources for crisis management, for more of like the victim side of things. But when I was ready to move into kind of the next stage, I felt kind of, it's like, where was the support here for me to go deeper beyond just like becoming okay again, to really reclaiming my power in my body and my sovereignty and all of these juicy, delicious things about being alive and being a woman. And so that's a big intention of the Her Temple space, is to really support women back into their power.
Yes, and what a gift you're giving them, because, well, one, a gift just, well, giving yourself by doing the healing work and giving yourself all of those things back again. But then to just pay it forward and to offer it to other women, because I know myself as a sexual abuse survivor, uh, wow, did I fumble around trying to find resources and trying to figure out how to heal from it all. So I just, again, what a great opportunity for women who are seeking. Yeah, there's just a calmness that comes in a oh, I'm so losing the words that I'm trying to say. Just I don't know, I don't want to say healing. Like, that's not. There's so much more to it than just healing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of look at that quality of healing as having two different energies to it. There's the energy that's like more of the purge, and that doesn't have to be as intense as it sounds, but it's kind of the energy I get at like cleansing, clearing. Sometimes we get really stuck in that area, especially as sexual trauma survivors, because you can feel so like dirty and tainted and violated, and you just really want to like cleanse that energy out of your system. That was a big experience for me, at least. And then the other energy is the reclamation and bringing back in, and like those two paired together is like releasing what was never really you, what was never yours, but you might have taken it on because of how the nervous system and the energy field operates after a trauma. But then after that clearing, and maybe even kind of pendulating back and forth throughout your healing process, it's also about, what am I reclaiming? What am I bringing back in? How is I use the word soul a lot, but you can choose whatever word really resonates for you. But how am I like really coming back home to myself, home into my body, to my power, my grace, my sovereignty, my trust, like all of these beautiful aspects that are connected to our human nature that we can get kind of blocked or cut off from when there's a lot of that like calcified gunk that trauma creates in our system. So um, yeah, I love thinking about it in terms of those two energies.
Yes. And no one has really painted it that way before. And I love the idea of that. It's almost like, as you purge it out, as you get rid of that dark, heavy energy that comes with the trauma, it's so you then have this space, right, that's inside of you, and to fill it back up with all that positive and all that goodness that you're so worthy of.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's, yeah, what a great visual. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I love that too. And I find it's really helpful when, especially when you're doing more like clearing practices or trauma release practices, because from like an energy field or energy body perspective, when you've cleared something out, it's really important to be intentional of like, okay, what am I filling that space up with again? So it doesn't just, that energy doesn't just come back, or you don't take on something new, especially if you're empathic or a sensitive person. It's even more likely that when you're doing a lot of clearing, it's like, let's rebuild the reservoir. Let's like increase resilience, increase a word from Ayurveda I love is ojas, and that means like your inner vitality and immunity and juiciness inside that helps you withstand hard experiences with more vitality and more resilience. And that's a part of what we get to bring back in during trauma clearing.
Yes. Wow. Yeah, you saw me raise my hand because, again, you're speaking to me and I'm just like, oh, yeah, that sounds amazing. And yes, that's brilliant and beautiful. Oh my God. So now do you do online courses? Do you do coaching? Do you do webinar? Like, how do you connect with folks to help them? Is it one-on-one?
My main focus right now has been working with training other practitioners to continue to do this work of somatic yoga therapy. I do one-on-one work and retreats and some online stuff, but that's definitely where most of my heart and energy has been at lately, is in our trauma alchemy training, which is again training people to learn how to do the practice, which I also find, for me, this is kind of how I work, and I think a lot of people are similar. It's like there's something really empowering about learning a healing process, like learning how to guide someone else through a healing process for my own journey and my own experience. And so it's kind of that, like, again, two different energies. One is like, let's really be with and heal our own nervous systems and our bodies. And also let's learn how to give back and how to be of service and how to be a presence, like a healing presence that really does ripple out and change your community, your world.
Yes, absolutely. And there's times that I felt selfish in my helping others along their healing journey because I learned so much in the practice. I understand what you're saying. Like even volunteering with Sammy, our therapy dog, I I would walk away feeling a little more healed, a little more connected to my own soul and heart because of just watching this dog do her healing magic with kiddos. So yeah, I totally get it. That's wonderful.
Doing that
Now,
really,
do you work with practitioners who are already yoga, um, like yoga practitioners, and then this is just like an added benefit that they can then offer their clients?
yeah, I do. I work with quite a lot of yoga teachers because that's the world that I've been immersed in for so long. I haven't led any really recently, but have been leading yoga teacher training. So I have a network of just knowing a lot of yoga teachers. But we also have massage therapists and other healing arts practitioners who want to learn the modality and weave it into what they're already doing.
Wonderful. So can you like explain a little bit about the modality and is it like a hands-on thing? You know, I always try to like I'm like, okay, I know I've done yoga, but then this is like more energy kind of healing stuff. Is it Reiki-ish? Is it like what is it? Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, let's dive into that. And it really, like, the foundation of it is in somatics, which means that we're getting really intimate with the information that's accessed through the body and the language of the body, which is sensation. Um, so that's definitely the foundation, is really connecting with sensations inside the body and also with your sense gates. So smell, taste, touch, these things that have been studied and proven to be really helpful for the nervous system in recovering and healing from trauma and integrating trauma. But as I got deeper and deeper into somatic work, what I was finding, which I found and I still find so fascinating, is that my clients were intuitively doing like these ancient yoga pranayamas or finding a mudra, like a hand gesture that was just, it was like so connected with the energy of the healing that was taking place, or a different, or like a posture of their body that is from the yoga lineage and from the yoga practice. And so really a big foundation of somatic yoga therapy is connected with this word sahaja in yoga, which means intuitive or spontaneous flow toward the light or flow toward healing. That is really where all of the yoga postures come from. I mean, that's from like a specific myth or story, is that Shiva, or more of like the masculine presence, more of the like solar presence, created the yoga postures by watching Shakti, the feminine presence, dance by the river and just let her body take different forms that were intuitively really flowing through her. And so somatic yoga therapy is about reaccessing and turning back on Sahaja, which is the inner intelligence that knows what needs to happen for both release and for reclamation, for letting go, for clearing, and also for calling back in and coming home to yourself, and spiritual growth and evolution. And it's all guided in the foundation of your body's wisdom. That's where it starts.
Wow. Yeah. So do people, as they're practicing this, like you said, it's not so regimented, is it's more of a flow of allowing them to again hold poses that so like not everybody has to be in downward dog and at all times.
Yeah. So, well, what's interesting is that I'll do one-on-one sessions. We won't even necessarily do any postures at all. Like any postures in the way that you might traditionally think about them or name them. Sometimes, and it's different for every single person. I've never had a session that's exactly the same as another because everyone is so deeply unique. But for some people, it's more movement oriented. There is more of a quality of movement, of postures, of even, more like somatic experiencing-esque releases, like pushing into something or kicking or finding those like running motions to help discharge that stuck survival response from the body. And for other people, it's really internal and they lay there the whole time with an eye pillow on and they're on like an inner journey. And some people are very, very visual and the process comes to them more in images. And my role really is just to guide what comes up for them. And it's a really in the moment process. I never know what's going to happen and no session is ever the same. It's cool. It's cool. It's really, I find it so fascinating how every single person needs something a little bit different and how the body just guides us right to whatever that is.
Oh, for sure. And that's why I'm sitting here with this big smile on my face, because I'm so mesmerized by
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really, it's just dependent on each and every person.
Yeah. Beautiful. Awesome. So what do you utilize for your own resources, and how did you find your way into yoga as a healing practice?
Yeah, my dad is a yogi and meditator, so it's kind of infused into my life since I was little. And as I approached more of my teenage years, I started needing it more. I was having my own mental health imbalances and issues, lots of anxiety, depression, and what I recognize now is just residual trauma response from unresolved childhood experiences. And I remember reconnecting with yoga and having this experience of really feeling in my body and in my relaxation response for the first time in like since I could really remember. And it felt like a really magical moment when I was like, whoa, there's something here that feels really good. Like this feels great. This feels better than I felt in a long time. And I want to follow that. Like I'm just so curious to keep following this. So I did my yoga teacher training, and those of you who have done a yoga teacher training before know that that's just this whole portal into such depth, and it's a really life-changing experience. I highly recommend it if anyone's been considering that. Really transformational experience that I didn't really expect to come out on the other side wanting to teach as a career, but by the end of that process, I was like, okay, yeah, this is the thing that I'm doing. And I've just continued to follow that intuition and that wisdom, that resonance has really guided me around my passion. It's called Dharma in yoga, like what you're on this planet here to do. And it's just gradually unfolded into more and more depth, into yoga therapy, into somatics, into energy healing, and into this creation of her temple. And I think I'm a person who came onto this planet to do some really deep healing work for myself, for my lineage, for my community. And there's just a really strong coupling between my healing work and what I offer to other people. It feels almost like I can't really separate it that much. Like I'm just like, I'm here to help guide others through
Yes.
these same dark nights of the soul that I've experienced and I've been through.
I absolutely love it, and I call it my soul work. And so yes, Dharma. And once you find it, it's so true. Like once you find your way to it, it just starts to take on a life of its own and blossom, and other things start to come along that you're like, oh, that belongs here too. Oh yes, and that, and then suddenly you've got this beautiful blossoming flower of healing work that, yeah, I just felt compelled, like you, that it wasn't even an option to share it with others. Like I never questioned it. It was just like, oh, okay, the next step is now we share it with others and yes, help them find it. So beautiful.
And isn't that beautiful how we can just really allow that organic intelligence and trust that like there's just a knowing, and when we allow for that, we step into more alignment in our life.
Yes.
And I find there are times when I fight that more, when I resist it, when I question it. But when I really access just that state of like, this feels right, this is a knowing of mine, everything comes into more alignment. And
Oh,
that's a really powerful space to be in.
absolutely. Yes. Yeah. When I've fought it before, and then I'm like stumbling around, running into walls. And then when I just allow it, it's like, oh, yes, that's right. That's right. And then things again just start to flow in and people cross my path or opportunities and yeah, to shine the light and beautiful. So wonderful. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to address before we close out for today?
Yeah. Just to give the listeners a little maybe taste or practice that they can apply to really start this journey more into the wisdom and the intuition of the body. And maybe not necessarily a practice, but a new way to relate to the present moment. And one of the most powerful applications that I've found and that I really return to over and over and over and over and over and over again, that really helps us get out of the like trap of the mind that can put quite like a halt to our healing process, is to return to our senses and nourish the sensory nervous system by becoming more mindful or more present to pleasant or neutral or easeful sensory information that just naturally is able to come to you and through you. And so each and every person's going to approach this a little bit differently. We all have different strengths in our sense gates. Like some of us might be more eye oriented, others ears, others around touch, others taste and smell. And so you can really experiment and see and feel what works best for you. But one way to just really start creating more of that like bandwidth resilience for your nervous system to do deeper trauma alchemy work is by finding little micro practices that you can weave in throughout your day of just like, I'm just gonna feel my hand stroke my arm. If that feels pleasurable to me, I'll do that. Or I'm just gonna take a moment and take a smell of my essential oil. And the important piece here is not the action, it's the receptivity that you can start to access through that action, like that receptivity of I'm going to nourish my system right now, which can often feel the nervous system, which can often feel overwhelmed or spread thin or sensory overloaded. I'm just going to take a moment and pause and give it some soul food. Like I'm going to really take a moment when I take that sip of water and feel the coolness of the water in my mouth and over my taste buds. And I'm going to take a moment when I get into my car just to give my body a little bit of a squeeze and hold. And really finding a presence with those moments is going to, over time, really support the nervous system. Might not be super obvious right away, but as you come back to it over and over and over again, there's really deep sustained change. And that's one of, especially when I'm in more of a triggered space, that's one of the things I just like remind myself, like, let's just come back to your senses. They're so powerful and really a great way to ground the nervous system. And so just leave that as a little offering for anyone listening who wants to give it a try to play with some of those sensual or sensory practices.
I love it so much. Like I just can't even, because I live mindfulness. I talk about it often on the show, but as we sat down, I reached over and one of my little like crystals, I love this one. I'll take it if I'm flying because I'm not a huge fan of flying, but I do it. And just to hold it and touch it and be with it and notice how it changes from cool to warm as it continues to sit in my hand. And then having Max on my lap right now, for those who are watching video, there's Maxie. I was just, as right as you started to talk, I was just touching his fur and listening to your words, but at the same time just allowing like that motion of just, you know, touching him and petting him. And it's become so much a part of my being that I don't even think about it until you started talking about it. And then I was smiling to myself because I was like, oh, I'm totally doing it.
And I love that.
Yeah, I mean, mindfulness is a practice, right? So yeah.
Oh, I love that when you describe touching Max, like even your voice slowed down and got like had this like honey tone to it. Like, oh yeah. It's so nice to have those moments.
Yes.
Really helpful to get us out of like our overthinking habits.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's why I say, I mean, just practicing those mindful moments through the senses, which I love that you pointed that out. It really does. It becomes so habitual that when you do have those moments of anxiety, like you can just almost naturally turn to it because it's just become such a nature for you to be like, you know what, I think my body just really needs that hug getting into the car, or I really just need that my lavender essential oil, and I'll just put a little drop on something, and that way I can just kind of let it embrace me, right?
Yeah, I think it gives us permission to come back to being human instead of being machines or being, you know, productive human robots that sometimes it almost feels like we're expected to dehumanize ourselves to live in the modern world that we're in. And those little moments just, for me, give me permission to really soften and be human. And that, I think, is one of the core aspects of why we choose to incarnate and be born, is so that we can live and experience this world through our senses and connect with life around us through those portals. And so yeah, those little moments can be really relieving, can create a lot of bandwidth, resilience, increase the threshold for healing, and also just be very pleasurable. And sometimes when you're in a traumatized state, it's really hard to access that. It's really hard to slow down and be like, oh, this feels good, because it's almost like everything coming through your senses feels bad or triggering or off or wrong. So it's really a journey of exploring, like, is there something you can find that maybe feels neutral? Or even beyond that, is there something that could bring you a little bit of relief, a little ease, a little pleasure, something simple through your senses that can give your system that like moment to exhale?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Even if it's, again, just noticing. I'll say all the time, we living in South Carolina, we have these little lizards. And we only moved here 2 years ago. We didn't have lizards in Ohio. And so every time I'm outside watering the flowers and I see one of those little guys staring at me, I'm always like, oh, hi, buddy. And so, I mean, it's just one of those, again, it's just a moment of pleasure. But it's using the senses of sight and just being aware and giving yourself that gift. So yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. So how do people connect with you? Where do they find you?
So you can go to my website, hertemplehealing.com. We've got a free vagus nerve series on there right now. So if you're wanting some more practices to integrate, you can go over there and sign up for that. I'm also on Instagram, which is just at her.temple.healing. And if you're interested in the training, that's also on the website, and you're welcome to apply. I'm not sure when this podcast will be going live, but as of right now, applications are open.
Awesome. Yay. Wonderful. Well, again, I'm so very grateful to you for the healing work you offer to the world. And thanks for joining me here today and shining your light.
Thank you, Teri.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. Teri Wellbrock again. Just wanted to thank you for listening to the episode today. And remind you to visit my website as well as the academy.teriwellbrock.com for the courses. But if you go to my website, teriwellbrock.com, you can sign up for my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, which is also jam-packed with information and strategies and blog pieces and guest blog pieces and links to shows. And just a great space for, again, healing and hope. Thanks for, again, being here and being a part of this healing space. I very much appreciate you. All right. Bye-bye.